My friends, it was January 2020. Yes, it was. It was January 2020. And me and my best friend, we sat listening to Radiohead as my big bad ginger tomcat, Colin, his full name was actually Mrs. Admiral Colin Gingerballs Clegg McCatface Rochester II, passed away in our arms. We had him for basically about 19 years of his life, maybe less. No, he was about 19, 20 years old. We'd had him about 17 years of his life, maybe a little bit less. He was a beautiful big ginger cat. And just as he was dying, there was an envelope came through the door. You know, it was a long period of him dying. And an envelope came through the door, and I picked up the envelope and I opened it up. And it was a Berlin court injunction saying that I had to pay the legal fees of Nicole Junkermann for her strategically litigating against me in Germany so that she could have my articles pulled down from vocal.media, the read-throughs pulled down from YouTube, eventually Rumble as well, and all of the other places. I mean, and for me to be delisted. She got this little Berlin court document that allowed her people to go willy-nilly all around the place and cover up her association with Jeffrey Epstein. The first articles I'd written had been in July 2019 and August 2019, and like with all my articles, by the time I get to the third in a series, those people attacking me in the real world, those people I write about come for me in the real world. They send their legal teams after me. Sometimes they send their intelligence agents after me. Sometimes they send handlers after me. Sometimes other people. I accept this. This is part of the job. You decide to do this. You decide to do this. Some people say, aren't you scared? And I'm like, I like donuts and smoking weed. I don't really care about these guys who are pathetic over here, because that's what they are. They're trying to control information. They often try and scare me or try and intimidate me in some way. They try and use things like strategic litigation against public participation so that you can't be a journalist like this, independent. And I've had like 7 years of hardship. Some of that has been due to the fact that Nicole Junkermann has systematically tried to wipe me offline. So that's been hard. And when this happened, I was already thinking with the Junkermann case, I was already thinking, I'm going on to pastures new, you know? I've done the 2 articles there. It's up to other people to uncover the stuff maybe. Maybe I'm not that good a researcher yet. I'm gonna go off and do other things. And when I sat there listening to Radiohead with my best friend and the cat in front of us dying, and that envelope came through the door, it kind of changed my resolve in a matter of moments. It changed my resolve. I was like, no, I am now going to discover every single detail I can possibly find about her life so I can tell a story and answer that one question. Who is Nicole Junkermann? Is she a model or is she the Mossad? You know, there was a bit of tongue-in-cheek back in the day when I did that. There's less tongue-in-cheek now. Now that we've seen the Epstein files, we see how many entries? It's 4,500, and some of them are personal emails where she's asking Jeffrey to marry her and organizing having superior babies in their superior race. So the question was, who is Nicole Junkermann? Something that most people still don't know. Yes, the newspapers may have mentioned her. They may have posted on her on social media, and they may have said a couple of things, embarrassing lines. But there's not very many of us who have been allowed to know who Nicole Junkermann is because she's that important. In fact, her main legal advisor, one of the ones who comes after me regularly, is was the legal advisor previously, before he died, to Baron Jacob Rothschild. So, I mean, she's pretty high up. Now, if you haven't already gone and watched the first part of this, it's already up there. The read-through's up there. This read-through might last longer, might not get geo-blocked, because I'm about to take Junkermann to court, and she knows it. So she's less likely to use censorship tactics now that it's been revealed that what I've been saying is true all along. It puts her in an even worse position if she does dare do that now. It's already bad. She knows it. Her people know it. This is one of the most high up, high level Epstein associates. You can't get higher. She's up there with Ghislaine Maxwell. She is doing things. Her, Peter Thiel, and Jeffrey Epstein, Ehud Barak seem like a really good team. Amir Elikai, Alex Dizengoff, you know, the boys. The boys. And their girl, Nicole Junkermann, who can be the front of anything. She's beautiful. Hey, you got a Revolut credit card? You got a Revolut credit card? You're paying towards Junkermann. Well done. Well done, you and your Revolut credit card. I ordered a Revolut credit card, got it. I put £10 on it, and then I gave him a very bad review about the fact that she's associated with Jeffrey Epstein. And her people then came back to the site, to the review site, and said he doesn't even have a Revolut account. He couldn't possibly know what our service is like, and he's lying. And so the site came back and said, have you got any evidence? So I showed him all the evidence that it put £10 onto this Revolut card, and I did everything. And so the review's still up there today. It's a 1-star review, Revolut, I'm afraid. You're part of a network. You're part owner. Your part owner is part of a network, at least. And you kind of like, I get a feeling you're in that network, because while I was being vetted by Italian intelligence, Vatican intelligence in Cardiff last year, the guy was paying for everything on a Revolut card. And I think there's something behind Revolut. I think there's a whole banking industry. Would you believe this? There's a whole banking industry that is there to pay for intelligence and for intelligence assets to use. It's more secretive banking. And they have to set up some chains and arms and etc. here and there to fund and funnel money through in complex ways. I think Revolut, you want to be watching it. If you've got one of Epstein's key guys invested in you, if I keep seeing the Revolut card being swung up by intelligence agents, I'm a little bit suspicious. And I went through this journey after January 2020. I said, okay, I'm going to find every bit of information I could possibly find on the web at that stage. Now there's more. There's more nowadays, but she was in very careful control of her image, because her image was everything. And I'd already broken that image a little bit, and she'd gone to war with me. I was already being contacted by microtaskers. They were already employed to take my articles offline, to try and find me, delist me from Google systematically. I already got the geo blocks. I'd already had my article pulled down on vocal.media. And that's when I went to Whitney Webb and asked her if she'd put it up on Unlimited Hangout, and she agreed. And then we had a baby, whatever. And this Junkermann article was like, I say my son probably wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the Junkermann art series. I mean, I met the mother of my child that way. I mean, that's just the way it is. Just the way it is. This series had a massive effect on my life. And of course, I was going to be a conspiracy theorist, so I did something special for this one. I did something special. I knew that, and I'd also seen every series of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And I decided to make a Charlie board. I thought it would kind of like, it would help two things. Number one, visually be able to see the actual, a bit of the actual network. And the other thing was really be able to take the mick out of the fact that these people dress people like me up as conspiracy theorists. Because my idea, and I think it's coming to fruition now, this is what I felt. I felt that when you analyze what how AI would be used on the internet, eventually, and we're not there yet, but eventually you'll find basically everybody's secrets out. It's part of the digital panopticon, the great reveal. Everybody's secrets get out in the open. And so they can only hide it for so long. It's like with the Epstein files, there's loads of ways people have found to convert it so you can look through his email or do other things. There's going to be lots of AI tools used to go through all of this. So in a sense, all of this stuff is going to be known. So it's a little bit, it seems like a silly thing when they're creating this AI world to be hiding this information like that. It's all going to come out eventually, but they're all about managing things for the trend. And of course, Nicole Junkermann didn't want everybody to know what I knew, what I realized. I realized that she was an extremely important part of Jeffrey Epstein's operation. And so I made a Charlie board. Let's go across. I hope I am about to get a wait 1 second. Oh, we're already in, are we? Yes. It's gotta come off. Sorry, I'm getting used to using some of these streaming platforms. They can be a bit annoying at times. And sometimes they're not less annoying. I can just remove that, pull that up, and then bang, 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 bang. Here we go. Let's see the Charlie board. I got a Charlie board. I'll do it like this so you can see it as close as possible. And here we go. There you go. Let's see if we can zoom in at all. I'm not sure if we can zoom in. But this was a Charlie board that I created for this article. Anybody who doesn't know what a Charlie board is, well, it's really the base of what anybody should do when they're investigating any form of conspiracy whatsoever. I'm just seeing if I can actually... No, I can't. I can't actually zoom in like that either. It is a bit tricky like that. So I'll show you some of this. This was my Charlie board. Who is Nicole Junkermann? And I did write down all of this. I did put the images on afterwards. I will admit that. But I'm looking, what I decided was, okay, I knew that in 1995, she leaves Monaco University and she becomes an elite model for John Casablancas. She's a model. That's where we are. During this investigation, as you will see, I will find some photo shoots, a very limited number that prove that she was officially being put out as an elite model. Yet I was unable to find hardly any other evidence that she was a model apart from it being stated around the place. Then I start to look at her relationship with Robert Louis Dreyfus. We'll go through that. Of course, I covered a bit of that in the first article. Winamax, Max Derhy, we'll talk about that. Of course, over there, Robert Louis Dreyfus, he's got something pointed over there. That's Margarita, that's his wife, of course. Robert Louis Dreyfus, of course, is his sister is in Seinfeld, or cousin, sorry, is in Seinfeld. I think it's his cousin or his sister. I can't remember which one it is. She's a Louis Dreyfus as well. Margarita was his wife. She ended up, after he died, marrying Philip Hildebrand, who's one of the heads of BlackRock, which is interesting, these people in their circles. That's Robert Louis Dreyfus and Nicole Junkermann at a football match. She's a big sports fan. They were both big sports fan. She then, we've got basically this fantastic Charlie board that goes through all of the different points in her life. So Infront Sports Media, the acquisition of FIFA World Cup, or the FIFA World Cup in 2006, and the acquisition of rights. Philip Blatter's connection, her friend, her relationship with Patrick Graf von Fabenkastel, Monica Seles and her friendship with her. Brad Pitt and Paul Allen in there too around that time. Her relationship with Epstein, the meeting at Foxcote House with Les Wexner, who's of course head of Victoria's Secret. The house was under Abigail Wexner's name. Was it John Kerry? I was thinking at the time. I now know it was not. It was Dick and Bob. It was Bob Graham and Richard Shelby, both number 1 and 2 of the United States Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, so they could request any information from NSA, CIA, FBI, or any other authority because of their authority. So they're the people you want to get involved in just before the Iraq War. Shanghai Sports Realty, Infront sold, the acquisition then, this relentless acquisition. Spoon Guru, NJF Capital, Songzar, acquired by Google, Songzar was. All of these Coin Drum, Revolut, etc. All of these things are being purchased during around this time. And then her becoming Countess Brachetti Peretti, Ferdinando Brachetti Peretti. We'll find out more about that. Elsa will find out more about that. Carbine 9/11, Ehud Barak, the 10th Prime Minister of Israel, Peter Thiel and Epstein, all in Carbine 11, all COVID-19 track and trace being involved in that. This was 2020. I'm so far ahead of the game on this point. AI, swarm technology that's now been sold to Starlink, and so has become part of, and she has become part of SpaceX. Applied Intuition, Oakwin, Health Tech Advisory Board, NHS, Matt Hancock MP. That's what I, of course, started off with. Deep Genomics, Evolve, Gideon Brothers, Grok, different Grok. It's still an AI engine. All of these things, and Vote, of course. Vote, which the people of Vote started talking about my first article on this. They started breaking down the first and second article. The entire website got taken down and made so that you could only look at it. You can no longer add to it. It was. I had opened up a box of frogs. Some people went to discuss that box of frogs, and they got completely messed over. This is a tangled web, and we're going to go through that tangled web. So let me come out again a little bit and come back up, because we are going to go through this article. Welcome, my friends. I'm Johnny Vedmore. I'm an Epstein researcher, have been for many years now. I've spent a decade plus researching very provable conspiracy theories to be true rather than just conspiracy theory. I'm an investigative journalist, and was dressed up for many years as conspiracy theorist, but that's what we do. We uncover the earth and we discover what's been buried underneath. Let's do it. Nicole Junkermann, 3.0, model on Mossad, a Johnny Vedmore read through of this. Nicole Junkermann is not just a hotshot angel investor and businesswoman. She is so much more than just that. If it was up to the Countess Brachetti Peretti, as she is also titled, you wouldn't know anything about her past. She is in almost complete control of her public image. However, Junkermann almost lost the ability to dictate the narrative virtually overnight as a result of my first article, which exposed her links to Jeffrey Epstein and members of Israeli intelligence, such as 10th Israeli Prime Minister, Epstein's close friend, and IDF poster boy Ehud Barak. These were not fictitious links. They were well documented and readily available for anybody to point out. I was simply the first to do so. I'd spent years researching this fascinating woman, and I had finally put most of the information I'd found in one place. Nicole didn't appreciate my efforts very much. I soon received pressure anonymously via various fake personas to hide my findings. But Junkermann had underestimated one vitally important fact. She had gotten herself involved in the UK's National Health Service, a fanatically protected public institution that I helped pay for. Not only is my money invested in the marvelous NHS, as I called it then, I don't feel so keen about it after COVID, but they literally saved my life. I owe them my very existence, which is true. It is also, of course, my right as a journalist to reveal relevant public interest information about any entity involved in this sacred institution of the United Kingdom. But Nicole Junkermann doesn't seem to think she has to stand for any criticism from the public about her links with Epstein and others. So, in response to her many legal actions to censor this information, I've investigated the various systems she's used to Photoshop her past and the information she's actively conspired to hide. Some of my findings are so potentially viral and pertinent that they should be almost impossible for Nicole Junkermann and her cohorts to successfully conceal. I intend to eventually publish an entire history of Junkermann's family tree going back 500 years, as I've done with malevolent paedophile protector Barbara Hewson. But for now, let's take a look at Junkermann's Carbine 9/11 and recent AI investments. That line, I got to just make a note, that line about going back a family tree was very concise and very clear because I wanted them to think that was what I was going to do. I was planning on doing other things, and I didn't want them to see. I wanted them to expect. And then they put up loads of websites about her family. They put up loads of fake websites all over. Some of it had slightly bits of information that were wrong and stuff. And it was very interesting. It was automatic. They were watching what I was doing, and I knew that. So I put that out there and instantly saw a reaction. Carbine 9/11, Ehud Barak, and the race to capitalize on COVID-19 track and trace apps. Carbine 911 has evolved since my first article, and the company, founded by former Prime Minister of Israel Ehud Barak, are setting their sights on being deeply involved in various COVID-19 track and trace projects around the world. But I have started to focus solely on the United States. The Mossad man and his ex-IDF team are very keen to exploit the COVID-19 pandemic as a way to gobble up mass data directly from government sources. Carbine 9/11 promotes themselves as a solution to the current crisis. They say, Carbine's cloud-native C Live Universe Plus platform can be deployed seamlessly and instantaneously to emergency call centers, health centers, remote doctors, and state government and creates a unified awareness center that provides unprecedented interoperability, analytics, as well as protection to both citizens and first responders. The entire Carbine platform has been designed for emergency situations such as pandemics. They are completely prepared to take advantage of the current situation. And what will you be given this group of ex-IDF hitmen and hackers for them to supply such a service? All of your private data, or unprecedented analytics, as they prefer to term it. Carbine 9/11 featured in a Forbes online article dated the 17th of March 2020 and written by Denise Cam and Thomas Brewster, entitled, "To Fight Coronavirus, This City is Asking 911 Callers to Agree to Self-Surveillance." The mainstream duo of journalists states, "These responders are now using a tool built in part by former members of Israel's military intelligence, Elikai being one. It's backed by Peter Thiel's Founders Fund, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who is now the company's chairman, and a small passive investment from deceased multimillionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein." They quickly gloss over the Epstein connection, and it's labeled as a small passive investment. The article also completely fails to mention Junkermann and her NJF Capital Equity, a private equity firm. The article appears to be more about manufacturing consent on behalf of Carbine 9/11 than getting to the truth. The Forbes piece gives a major opportunity to entrepreneur and director Amir Elikai to make a positive case for the company. But in one convoluted paragraph with a however to nowhere, the authors find themselves needing to excuse the company for more intelligence-based shenanigans, writing, "Carbine has risked being associated with the murky world of government snooping. However, one of the original vice presidents was Eric Banoun, who in 2014 merged his old business, Circles, a smartphone tracking company, with NSO Group, a billion-dollar spyware provider currently being sued by Facebook for attacks on its WhatsApp user base. NSO Group has asked for more time to respond to Facebook's claims, but in a recent statement, CEO Shalev Julio told the court that while NSO simply built the smartphone surveillance technology, it didn't control how exactly customers used it. Banoon left the company soon after it moved to the US and is a passive investor, says Elikai. Their careful wording seems to suggest that because Eric Banoon is no longer in a lead role at the company, then that means they're no longer linked with the murky world of government snooping, an obvious fallacy. Carbine 911 can't hide the type of characters that they've had back in their project, including Eric Banoon, Peter Thiel, Nicole Junkermann, Ehud Barak, and the late child trafficking pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. On the Carbine 911 site, under the section about apps data sharing capability, the Carbine team states, the data sharing tool gives EMS, remote doctors, and call takers the ability to easily connect and share information as they provide access to the Carbine UI with third parties. But they fail to explain which third parties will be involved. We are talking about access to people's private data on a massive scale, access that intelligence agents lust for, and the Carbine 911 board of directors is made up of some of the IDF's former chief intelligence experts. Everybody knows that once you're working for the Mossad, then you're in the Mossad for life. Giving access to the private data from government organizations to a company so closely linked with the brutal Israeli Defense Force should be resisted at any and all costs. Many of Nicole Junkermann's accusations of defamation seem to be aimed at various people who openly exclaim that they believe Junkermann herself as a Mossad super spy. This speculation has partly come about because she's one of the only members of the original Carbine 911 board of directors who hadn't at some point been declared an official Israeli state agent. What is also of note in relation to Nicole Junkermann's attachment to Carbine 911 project is that it's one of the few companies Junkermann has invested in with both her private equity firm, NJF Capital, and her personal investment. She also initially chose to have a very active role in the organization. Ehud Barak, Junkermann, and Pinchas Bucharest have been removed from the website since they brought attention to their company. They have also removed the sinister photos of the management emerging from the shadows as though they were ready to cut the throats of their enemies. They have attempted to polish their image since last year, and it's very telling they removed Ehud Barak, General Bucharest, and even Nicole Junkermann from their website to achieve this goal. If Carbine 911 are allowed to access data on an unprecedented scale, then they will become one of the richest and most powerful companies on earth. For in the modern day, data is king. Swarm Technologies and their budget satellite project. While Elon Musk's 2020 global satellite display was promising to bring controversial 5G access across the globe, Nicole Junkermann has been investing in the budget alternative of Musk's plans to connect the entire Earth to high-speed internet access. Swarm are planning to launch small cube satellites in large numbers to deliver the internet to the world. The idea has obvious positive benefits to many areas of the globe which have no internet access at all. However, the project appears to be over-promising, whilst noting that satellites may only be able to deliver 2G or 3G signals. Grok, Applied Intuition, Gideon Brothers, Evolve Technology, and the race to AI. Many of the ventures in which Nicole Junkermann has spent the last few years investing in are all within the realm of AI technology. Grok, a company whom she helped raise $7.7 million in 2 rounds of initial seed funding, deals with electronics for machine learning. Applied Intuition won extra investment in September 2019 and concentrates on testing autonomous vehicles under the control of founder Peter Ludwig and Kassar Younis. Gideon Brothers offers AI solutions for autonomous mobile robots and has London-based Pontland Ventures as their lead investor. Evolve Technology Solutions are a Californian-based tech company dealing in a platform for autonomous optimization. All these high-tech companies are geared towards making AI possible and are also companies with technological innovations with militaristic applications. Okin, Deep Genomics, and the Health Tech Advisory Board. Since my initial article, which pointed out Nicole Junkermann's connection with Epstein and Israeli intelligence, the Health Tech Advisory Board has not met again. But the NHS's relationship with Oaken and the promise of sharing in NHS private user data has not gone away. Oaken states that they use machine learning for medical research, but this comes with the risk of a private company funded by private equity giants potentially able to access the data of every UK citizen. Deep Genomics' lead investor includes Khosla Ventures, True Ventures, and Future Ventures. Based in Toronto, Canada, the founder Andre Long, Brendan Frey, and Hu Yang Jiang promised AI for genetic therapies. Junkermann's attempt to hide her past by censorship. Before I published my original article, I spent a very long time contemplating the various potential outcomes. It is within Junkermann's character to fight every battle, even if the battle is against the truth. I knew what I was letting myself in for by highlighting her powerful links so concisely, but it was the right thing to do. In fact, the article was just a collection of information which was already available in various places online. But Nicole Junkermann didn't expect anyone with an independent opinion to scrutinize the scattered evidence. When the quirky investigators at Vote.com started to develop her association further, the entire site came under a massive cyber attack that took Vote offline, only to return as an archive site. That was the moment when everybody involved truly began to believe that Nicole Junkermann was actually an agent of the Mossad. That decision to illegally attack and attempt to censor the work of many clever Vote users caused a tidal wave throughout some of the independent media's vast community. To the thousands of people involved, that act of unadulterated and unlawful cyber terrorism committed to protect Nicole Junkermann was an obvious sign of her importance. Whether that act was actually perpetrated by Nicole Junkermann and Carbine 9/11 or by another conspirator is irrelevant. That is the moment everybody began assuming that Nicole Junkermann had definitely been a member of the Mossad for decades. To those who witnessed the online aggression against Vote, Nicole Junkermann's links to Jeffrey Epstein and Israeli intelligence were fused forever. After all, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and cyber attacks like the Mossad, then it's probably not a duck you're dealing with. Nicole's aggressive response to the various speculations that she could be a Mossad agent had begun. At first, I was unaware of the various tools she was going to utilize to systematically hide her connections to Epstein and Israeli intelligence. But the problem for Countess Brachetti Peretti is that the internet is full of people who like the truth to be known. By the winter of 2019 to 2020, I was starting to receive tips from various ordinary and honest folks who had become involved. I had already published a second article on Nicole Junkermann and Jeffrey Epstein's visit to UK country house owned by Les Wexner, where they met two sitting senators, and afterwards I was planning to move on to another project. But Nicole Junkermann was intent on destroying my freedom of speech. The interviews I had given about her incredible connections were being taken off YouTube by various court actions across mainland Europe. Ed Opperman was the first to contact me with the news of successful censorship of our public interest interviews. Then ex-BBC legend Tony Goslin rang me one afternoon to say his content had been pulled in the same way. Tony urged me to fight her and gave me some sound advice. Then Jason Bamas's interview with me were also censored. Interviews, 3 of them, were also censored via legal action directed at YouTube. It was clear that there was much more happening behind the scenes. I was eventually contacted by a friendly Frenchman who worked on German microtasking website. He had been given the same job repeatedly. He was to search the name Nicole Junkermann on YouTube and was to write down the results that were returned. Eventually, the genial chap became suspicious and decided to check out who Nicole Junkermann was. He soon contacted me to tell me all the details of his work. Then another newly encountered ally got in touch with a long list of web pages that Nicole Junkermann's solicitor had pulled off Google. All of those websites had been removed from the Google search engine with no questions asked. In this time, Nicole Junkermann also attempted to flood the internet with favorable articles about herself, and she released multiple YouTube videos in various languages advertising each of her investments under the titles Nicole Junkermann Presents. In an attempt to drown out the video that she was having removed, and then came the request from the Berlin Regional Court for me to pay 2/3 of Nicole Junkermann's legal fees for her taking out an injunction that I was never officially informed of. My grandfather fought in a war to stop the German state from taking away our freedom of speech, yet here I was, it's 2020, and the German millionaire is attempting to censor my public interest journalism. Nicole Junkermann was not only censoring everybody who criticized her, but she also seemed to be hiding everything about her from before 2011. That's why I decided that the only really effective response to somebody who is hiding all of their past is to expose everything I could find. If you want to invest in the UK National Health Service, then you can expect such extreme scrutiny and nothing less. So here is Nicole Junkermann's history from 1995 onwards, much of which she has attempted to hide. I'm going to just take a quick drink. I'm going to say that this is pretty wild. This has been a wild ride reporting on Nicole Junkermann. It's been a wild ride. It taught me a lot. You know, I knew I was going to get some serious enemies eventually, some people who were going to come after me. I knew that. Of course I was going to get serious enemies. That's always going to happen. It's journalism. That's the way it works. But didn't really realize what that actually meant. You know. That she, you know, and I think it's not that I didn't realize what that meant. Is that I didn't realize how alone I'd be, because no one was reporting on her really, apart from one or two people who were also getting attacked, and that was, it's a lonely place to be dancing out there all alone, you know. 1995 to 2001, Elite Models Europe and Winamax, and there you go. These are the Junkermann in 1995. This is in an Elite Model magazine. This is the cover that I was able to find. In 1995, Nicole Junkermann was 19 to 20 years old, depending on which side of April 27th you're looking at. Junkermann was one of the top names in the roster for John Casablancas Elite Models, the high-end supermodel agency representing the biggest name on the catwalk. The giant names at Elite at the time were such celebrities as Naomi Campbell, Linda Evangelista, Yasmin Le Bon, and Cindy Crawford. The supermodel scene was oversaturated with some of the greatest icons of all time. Nicole Junkermann was competing for space with Kate Moss, Eva Herzigova, Claudia Schiffer, and many other queens of the catwalk. If you were to search for any of the models who Nicole Junkermann shared a time at Elite with, you would find plenty of images of their appearances, but Junkermann herself is absent from these same archives. Trying to find evidence that Nicole Junkermann really was a high-profile model is almost impossible. It's as if she has been completely deleted from history at a time when there were cameras everywhere. The only evidence I could find confirming her life as a top model was an askew photo of an Elite Model headshot catalog from 1995. This wonky portfolio showed only 5 images of Junkermann's work where she was sporting dark hair in different photo sessions. There was no evidence of which publications or shows she actually appeared in, just those 5 shots. Junkermann was not advertised in the same Elite agency catalog from 1994. I searched through thousands of catwalk shows during this period for a glimpse of Junkermann, but I found no more leads. The absence of modeling photos had bothered me during the original article. Surely this should be hundreds of past pictures, but now I understand her mentality and techniques better. Her missing history isn't a big surprise. I did look through absolutely every modeling archive I could. I looked through even like loads and loads that could just be, she could be there or she could be there, as well as looking for her, and there was just nothing there. The world of the 1990s supermodel wasn't only extraordinarily competitive, it was also blighted by a false body image it contracted in width year after year. At the beginning of the 1990s, the models were often voluptuous and naturally curved, but by the mid to later years of the decade, the models had become thinner and thinner until they looked emaciated, starved, and often very young. Nicole Junkermann did not fit the changing trend. She was a natural beauty and normally proportioned, not a wafer-thin ghost like many of the models to come. Nicole Junkermann had much more determination and focus than most of the modeling companions. She was definitely more than just a pretty face. Nicole went on to complete her first degree at the International University of Monaco, and she later followed up that with a business management qualification from Harvard in the US. And during her first degree, she helped found a company called Winamax in France, or so the story goes. But if you take even the most cursory glance at the tale of Winamax, there are obvious holes in the official story of its founding. Winamax was described originally as a football gaming platform and was a fantastic resource for football stats and data. In essence, it was an early digital version of fantasy football where no real money was exchanged and the site seemed to be running on ad revenue alone. If you were to search for Winamax now, you discover that it has become one of the many pro poker sites. You'd also be told by Google that it was founded by Patrick Bruel, Nicole Junkermann, Alexandre Rousse, Christophe Charming, Alex Dreyfus, from an idea by Robert Louis Dreyfus. But this isn't entirely true. In fact, Winamax was a pet project of its real founder, a man called Max Durhey. But like everything from Junkermann's past, it is information that has been altered slowly over many years. It is also unclear how much Junkermann invested in the project or how she managed to raise the capital while still a university student. This was her first official company, and it became tainted with rumors about her relationship with the Adidas boss and Winamax supposed idea man, Robert Louis Dreyfus. Louis Dreyfus, who married Margarita Louis Dreyfus, was married to Margarita Louis Dreyfus at the time, was accused of having a sexual relationship with Nicole Junkermann that led him and his wife to live separate lives. The Wall Street Journal eventually reported on the subject on the 3rd of November 2016 in an article written by Sarah McFarlane, Catherine Dunn, and Martin Van Tartwick, entitled Family Feud at Louis Dreyfus, one of the world's largest commodity traders, spills into court. The article states that by the late 1990s, Mr. Louis Dreyfus had started a relationship with Nicole Junkermann, a German sports and media entrepreneur 3 decades his junior. People familiar with the matter said. Robert Louis Dreyfus eventually died of leukemia in 2009, and in the following decade, his widow began selling off the inherited fortune, much to the dismay of the wider Louis Dreyfus family. 2001 to 2011, in front and dating the elite. After the steamy relationship with Mr. Louis Dreyfus had seemingly fizzled out, Nicole Junkermann began dating German entrepreneur and socialite Patrick Graf von Faber-Castell. At this point in history, Junkermann had managed to get through a controversial business deal with a public image basically intact, and Mr. Louis Dreyfus took most of the flack for their future business dealings, which surrounding the 2006 World Cup. During Nicole's relationship with Faber-Castell, she was persuaded to sell Winamax and begin her own private equity firm. Nicole's relationship with Patrick Graf von Faber-Castell didn't last long, but they remained friends, and Junkermann was even pictured in 2006 at the wedding of Patrick Alexander Hubertus, Count of Faber-Castell, and German actor Mariella Achens, who was originally born in Russia. She's literally in when they're throwing the confetti on the bride and groom. Who stays in the picture when they're throwing confetti on the bride and groom? Whose ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend gets in the picture? That's wild. It's wild. I think it's wild. That's Philip Blatter from In Front. Sepp Blatter, head of FIFA, of course. This is them at Brazil versus France, where France won 1-0. Nicole Junkermann and Robert Louis Dreyfus, cousin Julia Louis Dreyfus, of course, of Seinfeld. sorry, his cousin. And here they are at Olympic Marseille, Monaco versus Olympic Marseille, which ended up being 1-1 at Olympic de Marseille. There's Nicole Junkermann, and there he is as well. Nicole Junkermann's relationship with Robert Louis Dreyfus was still ever present and extremely complicated. Mr. Louis Dreyfus was a man who was eventually accused of widespread corruption and bribery in their next joint venture, Infront Sports Media. In fact, the next decade and a half saw various German authorities investigating the widespread corruption surrounding the organization of Germany's 2006 FIFA Football World Cup. Infront was awarded the television rights for FIFA football tournament by conveniently placing Sepp Blatter's nephew as its chief executive. Eventually, they were awarded with further coverage rights of the 2018 and 2022 FIFA World Cups, helping Infront Media to be sold for a massive fee in 2011 to Bridgepoint. On September the 1st, 2002, Jeffrey Epstein and Nicole Junkermann flew alone from Paris to Birmingham to the United Kingdom and visited the Wexner Mansion for a shooting weekend with two sitting U.S. senators. I'll add the article in there. The two U.S. senators, of course, was Richard Shelby, Bob Graham, who were the head and the chair and the vice chair of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. And so one of the most important positions you can have, or two of the most important positions, because they can request intelligence from all agencies. In 2003, Junkermann doesn't seem to be noted anyway, in contrast to the following year, where she is seen at many events for the wealthy and powerful. When the Hollywood blockbuster Ocean's 12 was being promoted in Monaco, Nicole Junkermann and a close friend, U.S. tennis Grand Slam champion Monica Seles, were in attendance. Karl Lagerfeld had organized an event where George Clooney and Brad Pitt were the center of attention. A wonky-looking Junkermann is pictured alongside Pitt at this event, but Nicole chose to give her photographer the false name of Sophia. Also, so most researchers never came across the shots Brad Pitt with Nicole Junkermann. A much more relevant superstar and tech pioneer was pictured with Nicole Junkermann arriving at the Cinema for AIDS event the same year. She was again marked as an unnamed guest arriving at the event alongside co-founder of Microsoft, the late Paul Allen. Junkermann sat on table 44 with Paul Allen and her friend Monica Seles. The 90s tennis ace, originally from former Yugoslavia, was also spotted that same year with Junkermann at the Laureus World Sports Awards. In 2005, Junkermann founded United in Sports, and she moved to Shanghai, where the operation was based, but not before being spotted at the Sorbonne in Paris, attending the gala evening aid of the Institut de Vassaux et Dusang, alongside her ex-lover, Robert Louis Dreyfus, a man who was becoming sicker each time that they met. The time in Shanghai was not heavily publicized, except for the enormous figure of $242.2 million, which the United Sports equity firm raised during 2007 alone. She was spotted again in Venice that year on the 8th of June for a dinner in honor of Jana Bullock. In 2009, Robert Louis Dreyfus finally succumbed to his long illness, and in 2011, Junkermann dedicated the successful sale of Infront Sports Media to his memory. But Mr. Louis Dreyfus had seemingly failed to see that his family-inherited business was no longer in safe hands under his estranged wife, Margarita Louis Dreyfus. Mr. Louis Dreyfus had already begun a relationship with the BlackRock chief executive, Philip Hildebrand, who was once head of Switzerland's central bank, and the eventual sale of the various Louis Dreyfus family assets will probably be the real legacy of Robert's life work. 2012 onwards, the documented years. After the sale of Infront Sports Media, Junkermann had become a very rich lady, but she had never been one to rest on her laurels. In 2012, Junkermann made some more public appearances. Only then she started giving the photographers her real name. It was clear that she was looking to begin a new era of her life. Junkermann was again pictured with Monica Seles at the year's Laureus welcome party, and later with Leona Koenig and Eva Deschand attending the 65th Cannes Film Festival, the Cinema Against AIDS event. Those were all heavily organized by Harvey Weinstein. In 2013, she was also pictured at Cannes, where she attended the VIP Giorgio Armani launch party with other famous models from her past. But then she started to focus and begin to form NJF Capital into a professional working entity. In that year, she invested in Songza, which went on to be acquired by Google in 2014. In 2014, she also began a realty project in Ireland called Ziggurat, which eventually fell through, as well as visiting an art explosion in Bogota, Colombia, art exposition, in Bogota, Colombia, possibly representing the Tate Gallery. 2015 was a really busy year where her still forming private equity firm, NJF Capital, invested in Jobbio, Chario, LV, and Thousand Child. It is also in 2017 when Nicole Junkermann is spotted with her future husband, the Italian API oil baron Count Ferdinando Brachetti Peretti. Ferdinando Brachetti Peretti and his brother Ugo Brachetti Peretti were both listed in Jeffrey Epstein's infamous Little Black Book, but their relationship with the garroted paedophile billionaire is not clear. The Brachetti Peretti family has some very prestigious links. Ugo and Ferdinando's father was the previous boss of API Oil for over 3 decades. Aldo Brachetti Peretti, born as simply Aldo Maria Brachetti, he eventually combined his surname with the surname of his father-in-law, del Lavoro Ferdinando Peretti. Aldo's wife was named Mila and worked for the Red Cross for 30 years and was the only woman in Italian history to carry the military grade of general. Mila's youngest sister was the famous New York-based jewelry designer and model Elsa Peretti, who was the founder of Tiffany & Co. She wasn't quite the founder of Tiffany Co. She was the founder of Tiffany Co.'s jewelry division, which I should make a note of that. The young Elsa was seemingly in rebellion from her famous Italian family and ran off to New York without any future financial support from her oil baron father. She eventually became a legend of the New York Studio 54 era, where she mixed with iconic giants like Andy Warhol, Halston, and Liza Minnelli, and all of the rest of the CIA bigwigs. Count Ferdinando Brachetti Peretti, who was originally married to Princess Mafalda von Hesse, and Nicole Junkermann, met on a few occasions before eventually partnering up while staying at the elite Gstaad Palace in Switzerland. The history books will write how Ferdinando comically chastised Nicole when meeting by accident in the Swiss hotel lobby, saying to VanityFair.com in an interview originally published in February 2019, "When I saw her, I said, 'You are a very naughty woman. Why didn't you reply to my message I left you 2 years ago?'" On the 9th of April, that's an exact accent. On the 9th of April 2015, Italian website kickerpress.com released pictures of Ferdinando kissing an unnamed female, later identified as Junkermann, during a romantic day out in Rome. In that same year, Junkermann officially founded her private equity firm, NJF Capital. On July the 13th, 2015, Ferdinando officially introduced Nicole to his lifelong friend, Carlos Martorell, the host of the VIP Flower Power events in Ibiza. He said of the couple in one blog post, "Nicole is a perfect woman, very attractive, friendly, and powerful businesswoman. Ferdinando, quite rightly, is very much in love." In 2016, NJF Capital invested in CoinDrum and Catapult. And in 2017, Junkermann was named as co-chair of Magnum Global Ventures. It is around this time that she became involved with Carbine 911. In March of that year, Ferdinando and Nicole were officially married, and the couple soon had a baby girl together. Junkermann, now Countess Brachetti Peretti, then began her mass investment in AI tech startups. In late 2018, she was placed on the NHS Health Tech Advisory Board by Matt Hancock MP, and she was still relatively unknown to the wider world. Then, in the summer of 2019, Nicole's past finally caught up with her, and she began the quest to regain complete control of her public image by using European courts and her great wealth. Yes, that past finally catching up was me writing the articles. There you go. The World Security Network and their World 3.0. This is really interesting because since I've written this, they've pulled down the majority of the site. So I think this is a little tiny bit defunct to an extent. Probably should have been its own article. Before I conclude this romp through Junkermann's history, I'd like to point out an outstanding example of irony hypocrisy by introducing you to the World Security Network. This half-cooked attempt at a credible global public policy institute made in the image of Council for Foreign Relations describes itself as an NGO founded and funded by Hubertus Hoffmann, a German investor and geostrategist living in Berlin, former advisor to the European Parliament, the German Bundestag, the US Senate in Foreign and Defense Affairs. The World Security Network has a 72-member advisory board, which consists of well-known experts from 21 countries, 20 retired generals and admirals, and some of the most influential people in the world, from Dalai Lama to Garry Kasparov. It boasts in their site's introduction that the World Security Network is not American, Asian, or European. We are the largest global elite action network for foreign and defense affairs in the world, focusing on young, new elite. Neither left nor right, neither US Republican nor US Democrat, or indeed an adherent to any other party line. World Security Network is an independent, international, and pluralistic non-profit organization. Neither a peace movement nor an organization of warmongers. It promotes a realistic and credible balance of realpolitik and idealpolitik, of power and diplomacy, of necessary military action and reconciliation, a double strategy of solid and realistic peacemaking, a new art of peacemaking we call World 3.0. Solution-orientated, looking for concrete proposals for all conflicts, not bureaucratic. We are creative and action-orientated like businessmen. Not fanatical, we are engaged global citizens with a vision of networking a safer and better world for our children. These vague statements are obvious hyperbole once you dig a little deep into their ideology. The World Security Network puts forward their proposal of a new world order, titled simply World 3.0. The World Security Network explains that World 1.0 was stuck in administering the status quo and defense of national interests through deterrence, and then profess the most recent world order to be World 2.0, which is defined by a foreign policy which fails to offer coherent and creative action plans for crisis management, with little deeds and much talk, and does not deliver feasible results, and staggers from one media-friendly conference to the next. Instead, the World Security Network boldly suggests World 3.0 is the upgrade of World 1.0 and World 2.0. The historical maxims and wisdoms of the importance of power and national interests, as described by Cardinal Richelieu or German Chancellor Bismarck, and the needs of realpolitik a la Hans J. Morgenthau and Henry Kissinger, are still the solid base of World 3.1. But these are no longer sufficient for successful foreign policy in 21st century. The online piece, written by Dr. Hubertus Hoffmann, goes on to give the international operation in Libya to depose Colonel Gaddafi as a successful example of good foreign policy. Astonishingly, he writes, this is amazing. As a rare exception, Libya proved in 2011 that the political hotspots can be also dealt with effectively. There were no Western boots on the ground. The local rebels in Benghazi occupied the driver's seat, and the push came from the United States, but the France and United Kingdom. The tiny and wealthy Gulf state of Qatar and United Arab Emirates supported the air campaign with 18 jets from Muslim world side by side with European allies like Norway and Italy. This first joint NATO-Arab military campaign conducted more than 20,000 airstrikes in support of the rebels.
This confirmed Dr. Fritz Kramer's doctrine that nothing works without power. Surprisingly, the UN Security Council passed a resolution with Russia and China abstaining. The Arab public, as well as Qatar-owned TV station Al Jazeera, supported NATO. The intervention aimed to protect human rights and prevent slaughter by a mad colonel. Minimum input resulted in maximum output, suffering a minimum of casualties among rebels and civilians, no losses of NATO jets or soldiers, and without burning huge amounts of money. A new post-dictatorship government was established in Libya. The mission was accomplished with the globally networked and innovative World 3.0 approach. So that, Libya, is their World 3.0 approach. This organization is obviously completely deluded and ignorant to the terrible state Libya was left in by the savage and reckless military intervention. The country has since seen the rise of slave markets that literally buy and sell human beings, including children. But this is their very own proclamation of what the World 3.0 ideology represents. The entirely incoherent yet completely insane description of World 3.0 from their own website should be read in full. There is even some clues to who may be supporting and funding this effort behind the scenes. Today, we have finally arrived in the global village. The Dalai Lama put it in a nutshell during the meeting of the World Security Network. There is no me and they. The whole world is me. International organizations and action groups such as the World Economic Forum, Amnesty International, the Open Society Institute of George Soros, Human Rights Watch, the International Crisis Group, the Young Presidents Organization, the Catholic Layperson Organization of San Egidio from Rome, and its successful peacemaking efforts in Mozambique in 1992, or the World Security Network Foundation inspired by Fritz Kramer. All these organizations via the World Wide Web provide a permanent network for hundreds of thousands of active individuals from dozens of nations with entirely different ideas. George Soros in there, you see. Who do you think is sitting on the advisory board of this completely shady New World Order Association? Of course, it's Nicole Junkermann, alongside her European Council on Foreign Relations, Ulrike Gurot, Walter Lacour from the Center of Strategic and International Studies in Washington, Eshun Ulhak, who was director of the ISI from 2001 to 2004. Sus period, that was. And chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff of Pakistan Military from 2004 to 2007. Other members of this organization include RAND Corporation's Robert E. Hunter, U.S. Defense Intelligence grantee Mike Munson, and King College professor Dr. Peter Newman, who is also director of the International Summit for Democracy, Terrorism, and Security from 2004 to 2005. The World Security Network is a fine example of what Nicole Junkermann is involved in. Many of the WSN advisory board are ex-intelligence agents, former generals, and money men who push for military conflict. How can anyone possibly believe that Nicole Junkermann is not involved in any form of intelligence operation when these are her associates? Here we go. Let's do it. Some conclusions. A truly fascinating woman. In concluding this very long and detailed article, I feel great sadness for Nicole Junkermann. In many ways, I believe that she is an outstanding example for humankind. She is a strong-willed, beautiful, funny, talented human who has reached almost the top of her potential. I do not have any qualms when I say that she is totally inspiring, and I'm even going to predict that one day they'll make a film to honor her fascinating life. But more importantly now, Nicole should stop hiding and manipulating her past. She'll have to accept that unless she were to set the record straight, people are going to make judgments based on what she's chosen to hide and not what she tells them. She has made her own bed in many respects. To succeed in the world of men after her short stint modeling meant Nicole Junkermann got dirty at times. You don't survive in big business without claws, and she was always ready to fight. However, many of the men she had in her life seemed to be eager to sacrifice their own credibility to protect her, so Nicole never really had to use those claws. Her relationship with the late Robert Louis Dreyfus may have benefited Nicole's early business dealings, but I believe it to be a story of a great romance. Robert Louis Dreyfus was far from a stupid man, and his decision to separate from his wife to be with Nicole Junkermann was a huge one. He didn't intend to divorce Margarita, and he must have known that the Louis Dreyfus fortune that had been handed down for more than 150 years was at risk. He was more intent on being with Nicole than being a billionaire, a laudable choice for a hopeless romantic. In 2019, perhaps for the very first time, Nicole Junkermann was up against an enemy she had never expected to encounter. It was the first real time that anyone had called her out for her own actions. That aforementioned enemy wasn't me, rather it was the truth. I was just one of the potential delivery methods for the bad nostalgic news. It was all information that was already available for someone to stumble across. The Jeffrey Epstein affair is way too big for some of his provable connections to avoid or contain. The Carbine 9/11 and Ehud Barak links were always going to be discovered. The flight manifest was always going to prove she flew with Epstein twice, and the World 3.0 was always going to look bad, seeing as no one had bothered to update their manifesto after the Libyan intervention went catastrophically south. Nicole Junkermann may want to blame myself and everybody else for the situation she is in, but she's made those choices herself. She can't go around silencing every independent voice without eventually causing herself much more attention from much more mainstream sources. As for the main question, model or Mossad, it is something that will be speculated on for many years to come. To be seen as a beautiful super spy isn't the worst fate possible. She may not even be the Mossad. She could possibly be simply a German intelligence agent, or maybe she's just been mixed up with some really dirty characters like Barak and Epstein. Not true. But the cyber attack on Vote, all of the systematic fascistic acts of censorship, and taking court action against the work of independent journalists, well, the lady doth protest too much, methinks. In trying to bury this story, Nicole Junkermann's actions have made it generate more interest. For every act of censorship she attempts, just brings another dozen people into the fight. And so it will go for as long as that cycle continues, the sooner the truth will out. I'm going to leave you with a quote from a previously mentioned Vanity Fair article on the fabulous Countess Brachetti Peretti, a very fitting quote in Nicole Junkermann's own words. We live in a fake news world where people change their reality with Photoshop. Nicole Junkermann, 2019. That Who is Nicole Junkermann, with the Charlie board there as well, was written by me in early 2020, 6 years ago now. Over 6 years ago, I wrote this article. Unbelievable. So far ahead of his time still. The mainstream news have just reported a woman called Nicole Junkermann who's invested in some of these businesses, was involved in Epstein. They've not even, this is like, not only is this already currently 7-8 years ahead, or 7 years ahead, 6-7 years provably ahead of the mainstream, but this article, the full amount of what I cover here will not be reported by the mainstream for another 10 years. This is almost 20 years ahead of its time. That's what journalism should look like. Should be investigating the things people don't know and should be revealing it. And there's a mix. You know, I mentioned some of the people in there, people like Tony Goslin, people like Jason Bamas, people who weren't scared to say out loud, or, you know, to report on this out loud, people who had no fear. And then there was a load of people who did have fear. A load of people who pulled down stuff straight away, who ignored me because it was too much hardship. and who played their game. Censorship only works if the people on the ground agree with it. And there was a lot of independent platforms who didn't want to discuss Nicole Junkermann because it was too hard. And when people did start discussing it, then it was interesting. I got to be able to. It felt like a breath of fresh air. There's actually a load. I don't know why that's come up like that. There's actually a load of articles you want to watch. The fourth part of the Junkermann saga here is Daniel Korski, the intelligence link mastermind. That should actually lead you to. I need to do some editing on Newspaste. I'm sorry to everybody involved. Need to do some editing on Newspaste. But if you want to read the Daniel Korski article, I'll sort it out now. But a newer version is here already. You can get it through the drop down menu. I'll add it in before I upload this part as well. I'll add it to the other one. But the Daniel Korski is the next part. We'll be reading through that sometime soon. Of course, that's where this led to. I wrote this originally for Unlimited Hangout in 2020, and this is the fourth part of the Junkermann saga. You can already find out this, and there's lots in there. I really did go. I mean, oh man, it's been heavy. But as you see down here, this has got much more of the actual related articles on it, including the Epstein Vatican connection. Of course, the Vatican had me come over to Rome, brought me over to Rome on behalf of Junkermann, and it was a bizarre trip. Anybody who wants to know what happened, and you do want to know what happened, trust me, it was wild. It was wild. And of course, there's lots of me and Junkermann going back and forwards legally. I fought against this woman as best as I could, and it was a hard time. It was a hard time. Whoo! I'm gonna stick on my sunglasses. I feel like I can do this. I feel cool, baby. I feel cool. I feel like I'm allowed to have a little reward and rest my eyes from this light, due to the fact I once had Graves' disease, and so I don't know if anybody knows what Graves' disease is, thyroid disease, but it causes eyes, your eyes to swell up. If anyone knows Marty Feldman from Young Frankenstein, who had eyes that popped up in different directions, he died of Graves' disease. So his eye, the eyes keep getting pushed out. And I had Graves' disease in the past, but then I got it. I had a radioactive treatment of full thyroidectomy, and now it's something now and again my eyes get hurty. They hurt a little bit because of the light, and so I put on sunglasses, and people think it's because I'm being cool. It's not. My eyes hurt, and sunglasses help. Hey, gang, thank you for being involved with me on that and going through this read through. I know it's a little bit longer than some of the other read throughs I'm doing now. At the moment, I'm trying to cut down read throughs to being about an hour long, and this has been just over that. It's a really important one because really that was saying, okay, you're gonna bother me at the time when my cat's dying in my very arms. Let's go for it, woman. And so I did. That's exactly what I did, and it was a fantastic article to bring out. It kind of also let me breathe out to an extent. And then after that, I wrote the Korski article, but then I also went on to start writing the Schwab articles at the end of 2020. I was in Chile. Me and Whitney Webb were together at that point, and I started writing the Schwab series and helping Whitney Webb to research for One Nation Under Blackmail, amongst other things. So I got involved. I had to concentrate on other things for a while, but I got back to Junkermann, and she never left me because she was constantly having my work pulled offline, and there will be more about that in the future. But for now, I am going to leave you, my friends. I am going to leave you with something, because anybody knows me knows that it's not just the articles I've written. I've also written the Jeffrey Epstein podcast, the musical, And in May, I will release the Jeffrey Epstein podcast, the musical part 2. And they all make up the Epstein musical, the Jeffrey Epstein musical, of course. And these are really important. I really mean they're really, really, really super important idea for work, because for me, I'm a musician as well. I've been a musician for many years. I love being a musician. I mean many years, I mean decades and decades, over 3 decades of playing music. And I was in a band once upon a time. I'm able to form songs. I've written so many songs in my life. I've recorded a load of songs, done a load of things. I got a load of work backed up, and I'm reforming them currently. And it's a really good way for me to have a little bit of chill time and do what I want to do with something, and be able to describe the events that happen in the Epstein case in a better way than I've ever been able to do before, in concisely in about 3 minutes. So here you go. This is the one of the first I've written about Nicole Junkermann. This is on Jeffrey Epstein podcast, the musical part 1, which is already available on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, whatever, YouTube. You can already go listen to the whole thing. And I suggest you do. People who do listen to it go, wow, you weren't joking. This is a proper musical. I honestly, I am causing trouble. And the second part, some of the music I've made so far, are pretty awesome. Really, really good. Really, really. Greater Israel is one of my favorite songs I've come up with. So here you go. This is about Nicole Junkermann, of course. It's called She's Down with the Mossad. Enjoy. Thanks for joining me.
Welcome back. I calmed down a lot. I was mad. Sometimes I get a little rage and I know it's time to turn another page. Sometimes I get a little rage and I know I have to keep in a cage. I want to introduce you to a woman who flew with me. She was invested with me. She denied me. She denied me. She denied me. The fabulous Nicole Junkermann, the woman with 1,000 faces, the glamorous Mrs. Junkermann, a lady of airs and graces. She may be German with her business in Britain, but she's an Italian countess too. She may be German, educated in Monaco, but she's down with the Mossad too. She's down with the Mossad, in business with the Mossad. Mossad, 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 Mossad. Though she lies all the time. Mossad, Mossad, Mossad. Though she lies all the time. Mossad, 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 Mossad. Here she is, an elusive 8-foot creature. Here she is, a technocratic creature. Nicole Junkermann, Nicole Junkermann, the one and only Junkermann. She's down with the Mossad, in business with the Mossad, 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 Mossad. Oh, she lies all the time. Mossad, Mossad, the Mossad, in business with the Mossad, 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 and she spies all the time. The fabulous Nicole Junkermann, the woman with 1,000 faces, the glamorous Mrs. Junkermann, the lady of airs and graces. She's down with the Mossad, in business with the Mossad, 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 Mossad. Oh, the Mossad, in business with the Mossad, Mossad, Mossad. And she spies all the time. Mossad, the Mossad, Mossad, the the fabulous Nicole Junkermann. Mossad man.